You may not, but if you do, you'll be on time.
Thank you. Do you start when we start?
Please
Go
do.
ahead.
I have a question before we start. Do we have a clicker?
Yes, it's
ma'am.
on there.
Unloading, good question.
Good morning, judges. It is our pleasure to be here today, and we proudly represent the University of North Texas. My name is John Pankanine.
I'm Nick Lombardo. I'm Preston Simpson.
And I'm Isis Jalla. Today, we're going to be talking about the case. We will also mention our optimal solution. We will give you guys a rundown of our data analysis, and then we'll end with a conclusion and give you guys further recommendations. To start off, we're going to talk about the case. So, as we've been a newly hired operation analyst at the National Parcel Express, we're in charge of examining the improvement of services and routes. I'm so sorry. So we've been a newly hired team at the National Parcel Express as the operation analyst, and we will be discussing the improvement of package delivery from LA to our 4 destinations. We will be in charge of maintaining the service standards, and based on this business challenge, we will be deciding the most efficient route and the optimal equipment utilization for this case. Just to give you guys a quick summary of the case, we have 16,300 packages coming from LA destined to Chicago. We have 8,000 staying in Chicago. We have 1,800 going to Madison, Wisconsin. We have 2,500 going to New York, Rochester, and we have 4,000 going to Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. We have 2 modes of transportation and 3 different types of equipment in which all the 2 modes are capable of transporting. Pickup is on day 1, which is on Tuesday, and delivery will be on the 5th day, which is on Friday. Pickup happens on Tuesday in Los Angeles, while delivery is supposed to happen on the 5th day at 2 a.m. Eastern Time, in order to make sure that it's on the 8 a.m. truck in order to make the delivery, which is a standard that NPE uses currently. This whole movement will be happening across 4 time zones. And now Nick will give you the optimal solution.
Thank you, Stu. All right, so between the 4 options, we have the 53-foot containers, domestic containers. We have the 53-foot trailers and the 28-foot trailers. We've managed to find an optimal solution that utilizes all 3 modes of equipment and transportation. So for the LA to Madison, we're going to go a direct 53-foot trailer by road. For the LA to Chicago facility, we'll be using 4 domestic containers by rail. And for the LA to Pittsburgh, we'll be using 2 53-foot trailers. And for the LA to Rochester, New York, we will be using 1 53-foot trailer and a 28-foot pup. 28-foot pup will be for surplus capacity and any additional remaining, based on the variability of the package sizes. Any surplus that accounts in LA, we will be able to fit in and account for. We've come to this conclusion based on many key findings. These key findings include the fact that 3 28-foot pups are not legally allowed to be driven through transit for most of our states, as well as the sorting facility time constraints in Chicago, which is currently listed as 12 hours. The direct motor route to Madison, which enables us to consolidate. The surplus capacity based on variability of size of packages. The time zone changes, the 4 time zone changes from LA to Eastern time zone destinations, as well as the 56-foot trailers not utilized by rail in this case. And I will now pass it to John for the decision factors.
Thank you, Nick. So the factors that guided us to this solution was both time and cost. For time, we found several restraints, such as losing day 0 to obtaining and preparing the package for an LA departure, The constraint of having to operate on the rail schedule, departing LA at 6 a.m., the 48.5-hour transit time and arriving by day 3 in Chicago. There was a constraint against drivers' daily hours of service, which due to electronic log device monitoring, monitors them to a very strict 11 hours a day. And then there was a major constraint having to be at the destination by 2 a.m. Eastern time in order to arrive on the final delivery trucks. For cost, we found 3 influences: the external influence of the rail transit fee, the ownership influences of renting and maintaining certain equipment, and then the internal influences such as sorting, loading, unloading, and then the driver fees as well. Now Preston will take us through our analysis.
Thank you, John. So we went through 3 different analyses: a holistic, an individual, and a sensitivity analysis whenever going through this data trying to find total costs. For a holistic breakdown, we found the total cost to be $40,455.30. And this factors in rail costs, load and unload costs, daily costs, as well as whether a team or a single driver is going to be used on the lane. That was a very big factor when considering travel distance, because Rochester, New York could not use a single driver and could only use a team driver because the 600 miles and the 11-hour mandate, as John said in the previous slide. ISA2 now brings us through the individual breakdown of each lane.
So for Madison, Wisconsin, the optimal equipment we decided to use was a 53 trailer, a 53-foot trailer. So we used one of those. For Chicago, Illinois, we used 2 53-foot containers, and for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we decided to use 2 53-foot trailers, and for Rochester, New York, we decided to use 1 53-foot trailer and a 28-foot pup. And these are the costs that for each lane incurred. I will now pass it on to Preston.
Thank you. So for our sensitivity analysis, and I got to say this is my favorite part of the presentation because we worked really hard on it. Utilization we found for each trailer, you can't get a 100% utilization out of a trailer whenever you pack it with variable package sizes. So we went ahead and broke it down to about 90% utilization on our low margin and 100% on our top. Each one has different costs associated with it, as you can see here. We found that 93% is around the a 93 utilization percentage is where we started incurring more costs when moving this freight. We have Monday, Thursday, and Friday at a total cost of $40,455 because we only have 98 hours to deliver to any of the cities that we need to deliver to. And then Tuesday and Wednesday have an increased time because we have weekends to kind of catch up on delivery and maybe use a cheaper way of delivery, such as containerization and less usage of pups on the rail. And that total cost is $39,685, about $1,000 cheaper than the Monday, Thursday, and Friday. I'll now pass it to Nick, who will take you through insights and further recommendations.
All right, after the data analysis, we've come to the conclusion that improvements and utilizing the Chicago facility better would immediately increase our abilities. If we're able to drop the 12-hour sort time down to 3 hours through expansion or through cross-docking opportunities, that immediately opens up possibilities for better consolidation or domestic containers across all modes. And doing so would save around $1 million annually, or increase revenue by $1 million annually. And yeah. I'm gonna pass on to John for the summary.
So in conclusion, our dilemma was how best to move the required amount of volume across the NPE system while meeting the standard of service that NPE has promised. Our recommendations was again to use a 53-footer straight from LA to Madison, to use 53-foot domestic containers on rail for all the Chicago destined volume, and then to use intermodal operations between rail and highway for both Pennsylvania and New York, utilizing a 53-foot trailer for Pittsburgh and a 53-foot trailer and 28-foot pup for the New York-bound volume, going right off the rail and straight to the destination. And then we further recommend that the opportunity to enhance the Chicago sort time would allow us to create a savings of $1 million a year on just our dedicated lanes alone. Thank you very much for your attention today. We appreciate it. And we would like to open up this time to any questions that you may have.
Can you go back to the cost, please? What's in there?
So each of those costs are, if you want to go to the next slide real fast, are the rail costs for each trailer or container, the load and unload, which is a $95, $70 to load in Los Angeles, $25 to unload from the rail in Chicago. Daily costs that each trailer incurs on however many days that they may be in transit, and then a team or a single driver cost, which is on a per mile basis. We also incurred a 10-cent load and unload fee for any package loading at the facilities, labor planning, stuff like that. And that was on a per package quantity.
For any of your driver moves out of Chicago, we're talking single driver moves, right? Is there any team driver consideration?
Yeah, there was, because for one of the lanes it was too far and we didn't have enough time, so we needed to utilize 2 drivers. That way we can go for the whole day instead of the 5 hours and 11-hour mandate that they have to drive.
And that's the Rochester lane?
Back to your sort time.
Yes.
My understanding, you're going to reduce your sort operation by 75%?
Well, if we can get cross-docking, even in an expansion of the building, if you put on 2 doors, and we've run the numbers, it's $4,000 a day, 52 weeks a year, adds up to $1 million. So if you can expand it or increase that facility's capacity to get in and get out, whether it's cross-docking or just an expansion itself, that's a very big potential for savings.
And with Chicago being in the middle of the country, the Chicago sort is a very important one for NPE's operations. So this wouldn't just benefit our options for our routes. This could benefit the entire system in allowing the middle part of the country to simply be more efficient. And it's definitely worth looking at to see if it can be reduced by any time at all to allow more options for such as DCs all across the rail network, instead of having to take 53 footers on the rail to not incur that 12-hour sort time penalty.
Okay, but the rest of your transit time to final mile was based on that reduction of,
On the further recommendations, on the actual answer from the case, it was utilizing 12 hours.
oh, it was you, okay, all right.
That's just for the
Thank you.
recommendations.
Otherwise, we would have taken DCs on unnecessary.
Maybe I misunderstood, but wouldn't it, given the short distance to get from Chicago to Madison, even with a 12-hour sort, doesn't it make sense to combine all that freight into Chicago and then load out a trailer to Madison?
It would have been, but since we're going to need a driver to load it on another trailer and drive all the way to Madison, Wisconsin, which is about 153, that would be an additional $300 and something. We also did that calculation and we saw that the difference was like 0.0%. Like the difference wasn't much enough to consider unloading, loading, and going through that 12 hours. And we're trying to improve business, and because the distance is not that far, it's about 1,976 miles between LA to Wisconsin. We decided to drive there since the driver will be able to make it earlier instead of delivering on the 4th day. We'll be able to deliver on the 3rd day. And as we all know, we love receiving our packages earlier. So that's what we decided to go with.
But you could, well,
We could. On days that we don't have to deliver early, we could utilize that, but we wanted to make sure that the packages get there because the service standards was really important to hold it there. So we were trying to make sure we have our packages on time there.
We found that that cost to Madison, the cheapest way to move it is through that trailer. Even with full consolidation, all packages moving to Chicago, even on days like Tuesday or Wednesday that we have that larger time frame, it was still in fact cheaper to move that trailer to Madison, Wisconsin by road or by motor.
And at the end of y'all's presentation, you put together, I can't remember which one of y'all described, a further improvement that
start to be made.
Yes, sir.
Wasn't quite fast enough to catch that. Can you just quickly, what was that further improvement y'all can make?
It's for an expansion or improvement of the sorting facility in Chicago itself. So all domestic containers or trailers coming from the rail yard are then brought to the Chicago sorting facility. It's a 12-hour span there. And if we're able to drop that down to 3 and dedicate it, I know it's a massive improvement, but the possibility of $1 million annual increases. And we've talked to industry experts, and 3 hours is
It's a big deal.
Yeah, speaking to industry professionals at UPS and the Container Store, they use cross-docking operations for everything, and they have it down to 3-hour, even 2-hour load times on those 53-foot trailers. So we think a 12-hour sorting time every single time you go into a facility. It's just way too much time, especially with cross-docking capabilities.
Yeah, to reduce costs and also to give a marketing advantage easily.
We deliver it faster.
So where you were using the 53-foot containers to Chicago, I did not see you factoring in a chassis cost. Did you factor in chassis cost?
I believe we did put it into our daily cost for the 53-foot container.
Well, that was one of our assumptions, that we wouldn't necessarily have that daily cost of that chassis, and that that facility in Chicago will have dedicated chassis and drivers to cart the containers from Chicago to the Chicago facility.
And in the case, it was mentioned that it's a $25 all-inclusive cost to move the containers in Chicago because it's such a short distance. It's right next to each other.
I thought the case said though that there was a chassis cost and that it was roughly 1.5 days on either end at a cost of $7.
It did say that, but we assumed that that was for moving it on road because it said that there's a $25 all-inclusive fee for moving from the rail to the Chicago regional facility because it's right next to each other.
So maybe I'll just provide some information for you. So on predominantly when you're using intermodal containers, the chassis are actually procured from a dedicated chassis company that provides them. Very few companies own their own chassis, except for maybe J.B. Hunt and Snyder, who have their own dedicated containers and chassis. But everybody else basically procures a chassis for that movement to and from the rail and to and from the rail to the DC. So you always need to factor that into your cost structure. Okay.
Understood. Well, if there are no further questions, we'd like to thank you again for inviting us to IANA and giving us the chance to compete in this competition. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.